Hello, BookTube and fellow Bookish Witches. I am Witchy Reads. I am so excited to finally start this channel. I've wanted to do this for a while. I thought a fun first video would be to do the very original BookTube Newbie tag. I thought it was a fun way to introduce myself to the BookTube community as a new BookTuber. I have the 11 questions. Let's get into it. Question number 1. Why did you start this channel? I am an avid reader and I used to review books regularly. And then a little over a year ago, I became a first-time mother. As a mother, it's hard to find time for activities that are singularly your own. And I felt that it was important to get back not only into reading but reviewing books, which is something I really enjoyed doing. I have been a lurker in the BookTube community for a number of years, and I just decided, you know what? I want to be a voice there, and here we are. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube? I mainly want to focus on discussions. I want to put my voice out there, my opinions out there on the books that I read, but I would love to hear back from fellow readers in the comments, via social media. I want to have bigger discussions than simply putting out a review and letting that be it. Even after reading a book and forming my own opinions, once I have those discussions with other readers, that with new information, my opinions may shift. And I actually enjoy that. I enjoy learning something more that maybe I missed, maybe I just didn't understand at the time of reading. And I feel like that's so important as part of being in a reader community. That is the kind of space I want to cultivate with this channel. And I'm also looking at fresh ways to present books, maybe through different mediums, doing, compare and contrast with maybe books in the similar genre, books that have been adapted since Hollywood can't come up with any original ideas of their own and are simply pulling from Wattpad. Hot take. I don't always think the book is better. Question 3. What are you most excited for about this new channel? What I am most excited for is to actually be a voice and maybe get in more with other book reviewers. I would love to make friends in the BookTube community, more books with more people. Basically, I just want more book friends. Question 4. Why do you love reading? It's a way for me to escape my hectic IRL life and get to experience something out of this world for just a brief moment in time. And I find that so special. That has always been the appeal for me, is to just kind of get pulled into these stories, fully immerse myself. There's no greater feeling, in my opinion. If I were to be specific, what really pulls me in about books? Really well written, 3-dimensional, relatable characters, someone I can root for, someone I can hate. I feel like there is a big difference on how we interact with fictional characters, and that is such a huge part of what I enjoy about certain books. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good world building as much as the next person, but at the end of the day, what keeps me engaged are the characters and those relationships and those interactions. It's magic to me. Question 5. What book or series got you into reading? It was Goosebumps. Love Goosebumps. Goosebumps started getting published around the time I was in 4th or 5th grade. I remember getting more into it when I was in the 6th grade, gaining an obsession, needing to get the next book in the series, wanting to continue the stories. I needed all of them. If you think about it, Goosebumps had it all. It had horror, it had mystery. Sometimes it had the supernatural, fantasy elements. You could kind of get into that series and it laid the groundwork for you to kind of just branch off into those different genres. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? My 2 top channels that I will actively go and binge watch are Reads with Rachel and UnCarly. My question for UnCarly would be, how do you harness that chaotic goblin energy? I drink so much coffee to just be functional during the day, and yet you seem to have this magical quality quality to just be a human vibrating off the walls. You are phenomenal. Please never change. My question for Reads with Rachel would be, how do you time manage being a mom and a booktuber? You seem to have this quality about you of just handling it so well. You may not feel that way behind the scenes. I realize, what we are seeing is much different than what you are feeling and what you are handling. I will just tell you that from a viewer's perspective, I admire the dedication you have to your channel, to your family, and just being able to juggle all of those plates. It's quite amazing. To me, you are an icon for sure. Question 7. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? My anxiety about being on camera, sitting in front of a camera, being vulnerable. I feel like that is something that you just have to practice at. I do think it's going to be a challenge for me to overcome. It is going to take a while for me to get comfortable in my own skin. The other thing that I'm definitely going to have to learn is how to edit videos and edit them well. I want to put my best out there, and so as the channel grows, I'm also going to be learning how to edit, and hopefully I get better as the time goes on. Question 8. When did you start reading? My father was really big about reading books, and he made a point of reading to myself and my sister every night before bed. We got to pick out the books that he read. 2 of my favorites were The Ghost Eye Tree and The Ghost's Dinner. Recently this year, he came to visit, and before he visited, he had dug around in his old boxes and found the copies of those 2 books and brought them with him when he came to visit to meet his grandson. The emotions of having those books on my shelf now, it warmed my heart, and I am so excited that I have those copies. Question 9. Where do you read? This depends on the medium. I don't have any qualms about reading hardback, paperback, Kindle, audiobooks. To me, it's all reading. I read certain books a certain way depending on what I'm doing throughout the day. If I am watching my son, I tend to listen to audiobooks just because that's easier. I can pay attention to him and watch what he's doing. If I'm out on vacation, or if I'm just out of the house, I believe it is easier to read on Kindle. My absolute favorite place to read is in bed before I go to sleep. Usually it is a physical copy of the book that I am reading. I love sitting there. I love looking at the words on the page, smelling the book, turning the pages. Love it, love it, love it. Question 10. What kind of books do you read? This was an easier question to answer when I was younger because I was still very, very much ingrained in reading YA fantasy. That was my genre and I loved it. Definitely went through a dystopian phase. Hunger Games and Divergent, the main overarching genre, it was YA. That has changed as I have gotten older. Also, it's changed by being in a book club. I have picked up books that I normally would not have picked up on my own simply because they were recommended in that book club. And I am eternally grateful for that because I feel it is so important as a reader to expand outside of the genre you may actively enjoy. If I were to pick a genre that is my go-to, it would just be fiction. And there's so many things under that umbrella. I still will occasionally read YA, but it is not my go-to anymore. The genre that I've really started to enjoy is horror comedy or just horror. There was always horror elements in some of the books that I've read, and I have started to find that I enjoy that. I've also started to get more into the supernatural stuff and romance. I don't want to get bogged down by any specific genre for this channel. I want to be able to read different genres and review how they make me feel. Well-written characters aren't specific to a genre. Question 11. What does your book collection look like? Okay, you can kind of see my bookshelves behind me. They are a bit of a mess. I have done my best to try and organize them by genre. This section right here is romance. They're all kind of separated in that way. It's chaos. It's chaos down here. The other thing to admit is that most of the books on my shelf are TBRs. When I was younger, it was definitely about quantity. I wanted to be that teen like Rory Gilmore, and I read a lot of books. My collection is a blip compared to others. I have transitioned books off of my shelf while bringing other books in. I definitely would classify myself as a book dragon. I do enjoy buying books and putting them on my shelf, but the goal always for me has been that I am going to read what is on my shelf and then decide if it gets to stay there. A lot of the books are on my shelf right now simply because I haven't read them and hasn't been determined if I'm going to keep them or not. I definitely have some nostalgia reads. I know I have a couple Goosebumps books on that shelf as well. For now, it is a book dragon's treasure trove, and I'm okay with that. Those were the 11 BookTube Newbie Tag questions. If you want to hear my opinions on the books that I read, please consider liking this video, subscribing, following me on Twitter. I am at Witchy_Reads. I am also on Instagram. This is Witchy Reads. I will see you soon.